Welcome, welcome, welcome to another fabulous workshop with Izzy and myself. I'm Christine Renee. Today we're talking all about defense against the dark arts. I'm assuming that if you are here, you're probably in the Reiki community, and that means we all have tools right at our fingertips, and that is our hands. So I'm just going to invite you all to start charging your Reiki hands, and we're going to start off with some gasho. So placing your hands in prayer pose. Feet on the floor, if you will, nice, tall sitting. We're just going to tune in for a moment. Breathing in all of the blessings. Exhaling out all of the stress, the to-do list, the worries from the day, the tension in the body, just letting it go for this time and in this moment. And we're going to call in the 4 directions. And I'm doing this all by intuition, just calling forth what needs to be called in for this call, this workshop. You're more than welcome to turn towards the direction or stay here in gasho and just breathe easily and in the flow of the energy. And we start by turning towards the east. We call upon the spirits of the east with the rising sun, the new day, new beginnings. We welcome you to the space to give rise to new perceptions, to new clear thinking with this new wisdom that's going to be presented tonight. We ask that you help us see from a new vantage point, just as eagle flies over the sky, seen from a different perspective. We welcome these new perspectives, these new beginnings and new chapters to flow into our life, breathing that in, the air of the East. Welcome, spirits of the East. And we turn to the South. We welcome the spirits of the South. With your fire, we welcome you this night to give rise to our power, our passion, and motivation. We ask that anything that no longer serves us be given to the fire to burn away, and that we may rise like the phoenix, fully empowered to be truly who we are in our full glory, our highest version of ourselves, releasing and letting go all that is ready. Welcome, spirits of the South. Turning to the West. We welcome the spirits of the West with your cool waters, that push and pull of the waves. We welcome you to the space to help us feel the push and pull in our life, to give rise to our intuition and to dive in waters far off from familiar shores. Help us to find those easy currents to dive into, to flow with, and remember to play and enjoy the time that we have in the mystical realms. We welcome the spirits of the West. And to the North, we welcome the spirits of the North. Earth, thank you for being here. Thank you for your power, your protection, your nourishment. We call in our loving grandmothers and grandfathers, our loving ancestors to be here with us this night, to help protect us and provide us this sacred space to do this learning, to help us show us the righteous path that leads us on this walk with tender feet on the earth, honoring the earth's energy. We welcome spirits of the North. And we call upon our higher selves to be with us tonight, exactly who we are, showing up as we are with all that we bring to this call, knowing that this is a safe and sacred container to shift and pivot and heal whatever level is ready, that this becomes a sacred circle of love and light Reiki energy being blessed from all 4 directions, as well as above and below. With all the directions now called present, we call the circle sacred and protected for this evening's workshop. Blessed be. Beautiful. This is a topic that I felt needed that calling in, needing that sacred space for us to do this learning tonight. So thank you for being present in your own energies and your own wisdom and your own Reiki path to show up here on this call tonight. So thank you everyone for being here and blessing the space with Reiki. This is totally a sacred circle to do this work. Beautiful. Okay, let's dive in. What are we talking about tonight, Izzy?
We are talking about defense against the dark arts, and I am so excited for this particular topic. I think it's something that a lot of practitioners have questions about, they want to know about, and yet it's also one of those topics that people can be a little nervous about bringing up, and there's some tension there sometimes. So I'm really excited to kind of shed the light on these quote-unquote darker topics and really release that fear, release the tension, and step into a place where we can approach it with confidence and clarity and knowing our tools and techniques that we have to help us through those moments when we do encounter some of those darker moments in our practices, because it's bound to happen.
Yes. And I always am reminded when we have these type of conversations, the only thing to fear is fear itself. And when we hold that true, when we can vanquish fear, if this knowledge is power, if we can step into the space of knowing that what we learn here tonight is empowering, that is going to help serve us in the long run. So thank you for trusting us in this space to learn, to educate, all of the things. And we're going to dive right in. Right. So what are we covering tonight? We're going to try to cover a lot. We are going to talk about what are the dark arts, like what do we mean by that? Obviously, we stole that from Harry Potter, so we don't mean it quite literally, but we definitely, there is that that flavor that we want to get into. Why is it so important to be aware of? The signs and symptoms of dark energy. What causes dark energy? What can that look like? How do we protect ourselves? What are rituals that we can do to really help protect us? So that psychic protection. And both Izzy and I have plenty of experience in this area. I don't want to say unfortunately, because now I feel empowered. It's like I help a lot of people. I have a lot of people who come to me with these issues in particular because I'm not afraid of it. And I've worked through a lot of things. And so I feel very confident and comfortable working with this.
Okay, so what do we mean by dark arts? If you're a Harry Potter fan, you're probably instantly thinking of like Horcruxes and the deadly curses and things like this. And obviously that is not what we're talking about. When we say dark arts, we don't want to cast any of that fear or, again, that tension, like I said, onto the subject. Really what we mean by dark arts is any kind of manipulation of energy for negative purposes. But it's really about intention, paying attention to the intention behind what's happening. As Reiki practitioners, we know that Reiki works for the highest good of all, and it comes from this place of love and light, but there is the potential to use energy for harm or for negative purposes. And that's really what we mean by dark arts, anytime the intention turns towards the negative. But it also is important to understand that it's a natural part of the spiritual realm, right? All light casts a shadow. We all have our shadow selves that we work through every day. And this doesn't mean that we need to be afraid of them. It doesn't mean that we need to push away or reject them, but there's a call to embrace them, not in a way of integrating them into ourselves and kind of stepping into the dark arts in that way, but by acknowledging them and releasing our fear of them, we can drain them of their power, we can work with them, we can bring them to the light and transmute them into those love light energies that we are all at the end of the day. And so it does not mean, I think this is something that we hear a lot, especially with our students and especially in the shamanic Reiki practitioner training, is we hear a lot of practitioners who carry this belief that in order to be a valuable practitioner or in order to feel like they have enough experience, they have to have these really deep experiences with the dark arts. They have to have had a negative entity or have walked in the darkness or have some kind of struggle or trauma or all of these things, because we feel like we need that experience, that we need to have lived through it in order to be able to teach about it or represent the knowledge that it can take to defend yourself, quote unquote, against the dark arts. But that's not true. It doesn't add to your value. It doesn't add to who you are as a person, as a being, or as a practitioner, because as we all know, we all come from this place of energy. We all come from this place of connection, and we all have these innate intuitive knowings and abilities of how to navigate these areas without having to dive into them completely.
Yes, yes. So one of the things that we mean by arts also is that you don't also need to play in the darkness. It doesn't add any value. And here we go. Like I was like, we're going to be sprinkling stories in. One of my very first experiences that I had was when I was engaged to my first husband. One of his friends was casting spells and like love spells and curses at my relationship with my partner and I my first marriage. And when I met him, he invited me up to his altar room, but it was so cast in dark energy. And the first thing out of my mouth was, why would anyone play in the dark when there's an abundance amount of light? And in that statement, that powerful statement, and this is like, mind you, I was 21 years old and already doing Reiki and already doing, light energy work. I was like, why would anyone play in this space? And that was like the instant I felt all of the curses fall off of me. All of what he was trying to spellbound me into his energy, because he felt like I was this goddess that came into this community. Of course, it was for the person he thought he was worthy of such a goddess. And I was like, and no. And I just felt such a shift from what had been playing on my heart and kind of manipulating my energy. And it was just like, and no, I'm not available for that. I'm not what you think I am, because I only work with a love and light energy. So why is it important to be aware of? There's a lot of things that can happen. This is why it's so important, because it can affect our mental and physical health. It can deplete our life force if we have an intrusive entity attached to us in any capacity. It's drawing energy off of us. It's feeding it. It's like, think of mosquitoes. They might not be inherently evil. It's just what they do. So some negative entities will just attach to you and they're just drawing energy out. They're just feeding off of you, just like a mosquito would, right? And so when we're depleting our life force energy, it can have, and for long term, it can start making a huge impact on our mental and physical health, as well as our ability to manifest and see clearly. Like if something is covering up your third eye or really bringing in the negative self-talk, I want to be like, who here struggles with negative self-talk? I think the majority of Americans struggle with negative self-talk. I don't know about the majority of Reiki practitioners, but if you have that consistent negative self-talk and the negative, like I talk to myself in a way that isn't nurturing, like if I'm talking to myself that I wouldn't talk to my inner child, there's a gap there. Maybe you have something, right? Like there could be something else that's playing with that thought process, and therefore you get distorted visions and you get distorted goals. I have seen Reiki practitioners that thought that they were getting visions of a certain thing, but it really was a negative entity coming in and changing the vision and manipulating it, and so that they could see all of this negativity when it wasn't there. It was really just a curse of some kind. Negative energy sharing. So that's like two people or more than two people who are basically giving each other back and forth this negative energy. And so think about if you've ever gotten into a spat with your partner, and how often does that negative jive and digs go back and forth? And it's like, is it healthy? Is it worthy? And it might not be an intrusive entity, but it's still like, we have to realize and recognize that our words are manifesting. Our words are power. Our words create. And so if we're using our language to negatively talk about ourselves or others, that's a big red flag that you're sending curses, right? Like that's the negative stuff, right? And what else do you want to add to that, Izzy? What am I missing?
I just want to add that, especially on that last point that you were sharing, it's really important to understand that dark arts, dark energy, it's not just negative entities or these things that we think of as being separate from ourselves. It really is, like we said at the beginning, anytime energy is used for a negative purpose. And so that includes negative self-talk, that includes yelling or angry words, that includes just heavier energies that settle on us. It doesn't have to be these big, really scary things that we can sometimes think of. It incorporates all those parts of energetic practices or words or intentions or anything that is shifted towards that negative side of the spectrum. And I think it's also important to note here that it's important to be aware, but it's also important to understand that there's a difference between awareness and calling it in. I think a lot of practitioners kind of hesitate to talk about these topics because they're worried about, well, isn't talking about it kind of like invoking it or inviting it into my life? And that's where we want to draw a really clear line and a very clear difference, is that awareness is important, because when you start to have these experiences, when you start to encounter darker energies in your practice, you want to be able to know how to handle it, how to safely and effectively navigate those spaces. But you also want to be able to have, like Christine said, the ability to call in your sovereignty, to claim your energy, and to know that you do not have to invite or create an open space for those energies to become part of your own reality. As a practitioner, as a spiritual being, you will most likely encounter some kind of dark energy at some point in your practice. And that's why we want to make that distinction between being aware and knowing that you have the power and the sovereignty to stay separate from it, but also cultivating the confidence and the tools and techniques to be able to deal with it and transmute it and work through it effectively.
Yes. Yes. So why does this happen? Why do we get affected by negative or dark energy? So often is what's happening is that it starts from a really young age, where our energy field starts getting like poked holes into. And what I mean by that is our subconscious from 0 to 7 just absorbs everything from our environment. So if our parents tell us that we're a horrible child, or they don't show up when you feel like you need the love, if whatever is going on when you're a child, and it's then your childhood wounding or childhood trauma, it's already starting to affect your energy field. Any of those negative limiting beliefs that you own in your soul, it's the first step. It's the first step to why does this happen. And we all have this kind of weakness. We all have childhood trauma in some capacity. And so when we have this energetic weakness where we can't stand in our truth, where we can't stand in our confidence, where we can't stand in the knowingness that we are here for divine reason and purpose, when we can't stand in our authentic truth and own our values and beliefs that really help expand our energy, what happens, like there's this contraction, like we have expansion and we have contraction. So when we're in that state of fear, when we don't feel like we're worthy of love, when we don't feel like we're that we're lovable, any of those limiting, like very common limiting beliefs, it's a contraction of energy. And that contraction of energy is like weaknesses in our energy field. Like you have your auric field, and oh, here's my solar plexus, right? My solar plexus wants to be shining out of my body and going, I am worthy of my full truth and my full existence here on earth. And I radiate love and magic and all of these really wonderful, powerful things. But then, and if it's healthy, it's doing that. It's shining bright and it's projecting and really creating this really lovely energetic field, right? But when we go, I'm not worthy of love, I'm not worthy of the food on the table, or I'm not right. If we have this internal dialogue, our solar plexus, that fire of the solar plexus is just embers. And in that contraction of energy, our energy fields contract and come in, giving us these weaknesses, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think one way that I really like to look at it and explain it to clients is it really is like that force field. You've seen in movies where there's the force field and it's really strong until there's that one hole that gets poked in. And suddenly all of these things are able to get in because all it takes is that one weakness. All it takes is that one spot in your auric field or in your energy field, or however you want to visualize it. Thinking about your energy as that kind of force field that you have, that external projection of your energy and your essence. And when your essence and your energy is carrying with it negative limiting beliefs or fears or anxieties, there will be natural weak points. And that's not to say that because there's a weak point, there will be a negative attachment. That's not what we're saying, but it's just that the potential is there. And that's why we're so passionate about helping people heal their chakras and work through their limiting beliefs and healing those subconscious doubts that we have about ourselves, because it is so important that we cultivate as much as we can that strong energy so that we have the ability and kind of that fortitude to be able to stay strong in ourselves without inviting in those external darker energies that can prey on our weaknesses. And so that's really why we're here tonight, is to start that process of what can you do about it? How can you work through these things that are causing those weaknesses and really start to build up that strength and that clarity in your own energy?
Right. And so you can start to think about, where in my life did I contract my energy? Where in my life did I do something that gave a weakness? Was it the alcohol binge drinking in college? Right? Was it the going into places that had dark energy? I mean, a bar in of itself, I mean, there's a reason why we call alcohol spirits, right? It's because it had the connotation that there is darkness around it. And so you're contaminating a pure energetic field when we take in things that aren't for our highest good, right? So it's the same thing if I binged out on potato chips all day long, right? I mean, it's like we're weakening our full energetic system. So what is the things in your life that you're contributing to the contraction of energy that's creating weakness? And it could be past trauma. It could be your a divorce. It could be like your domestic violence. It could be, all like so many, it could be so many things that are creating the weaknesses, but it's not causing the attachment. I want to make that really clear. So when we have a weaker energy field and we place ourselves in situations where there is dark energy happening, that's when attachments can occur. So if I have a really weak energy disposition and I am out binge drinking in a place of low and dark energy, that could be a contributing factor, right? And oftentimes, like if you are, like this is a great example, whether it is drug use or alcohol, if you're getting to a point where your soul is like, wow, it's so freaking toxic in here, I'm out, and your soul retreats, you're an open, empty vehicle for something to attach, something to come in and start to drive the car, your body, your energy. And then it's really hard to come back into that and go, oh, great. Do I have awareness that I have now an attachment or not? I don't know. So these are just things to be aware of as we see our clients, as we do our own personal healing work. And it all comes back to owning our own sovereignty. And we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. So some of the dark arts, what we mean by this, like, how does it actually look? Is it intrusive entities? Is that the attachment? Is it an intrusive object? That can be an attachment. Could it be a curse or a spell? It could be cords, energetic cords. It could be portals in an actual physical location. All of these are show up in different ways, and they can feel different. So if you're energetically working on someone, whether it's yourself or someone else, I find that with this kind of stuff, it's easier for me to have an outsider go read my energy field, feel into my energy, let me know, because from my vantage point, I might miss something. I might have an inkling like, oh, there, I feel a cord there, but I often would need help to remove it from myself. Like you can do, energy clearings and cuttings and things, but sometimes they're really persistent and you need support. So just putting that out there. But those energy cords, those are often those cords that go back to that original trauma in your childhood, or those, if you have PTSD, those traumatic events that you've experienced, those can create energetic cords with a limiting belief that's attached to it going, you're not worthy of love, or whatever it may be. And so those cords, those energetic cords, you can cut them and release them again and again and again and again, But if you do not heal the underlying limiting belief, they are going to reattach. So there are certain ways to cut cords to make it more effective and more permanent. Okay. There's the intrusive entities. These are the, I want to be like, they're the creepy crawlies that, you can kind of feel around. And that's why, last week we did the energy clearing training. It very much is like, it helps clear the space and helps clear things out. But if we walk through somewhere with confidence, like Harry Potter here, if we walk through into the forest with confidence that I have the skills, I have the knowledge to come up against anything, those intrusive entities can't touch you, because we're working with free will here, people. The free will of going, I know I'm not worthy of love and I don't love myself. That is a free will statement that you now believe and can then let in these intrusive entities, intrusive objects. Okay, does that make sense? Like, really feel into that. Like, I am making a free will choice to believe that I am not a divine child of God. Okay, change the words, the verbiage if you need to. But in that statement, if you don't have that, if you have this, I'm not worthy of love belief, you're giving your free will up to whatever matches that energetic the vibration, which can be an intrusive entity. What do you want to add to that, Izzy?
I just want to add that it's also so important to be aware that sometimes you're dealing with more than one. And I actually have a really interesting personal experience with this. Back in January, it was around Mercury retrograde, so that definitely played a role into it. But there was a week where my computer stopped working, my phone died, and my tablet died. Within 72 hours, all of my technology was just out. I got sick, and I had one of the most interesting periods of spiritual detachment I've ever experienced. Now, a lot of you know that I struggle with depression and PTSD, so those kind of lower energy states aren't necessarily abnormal for me, but this was very different. This was very much like all the way out of my body. My soul was just like, no, we're not doing this. And so there was this feeling of, well, what if I'm not meant to be a spiritual practitioner? What if I'm not good enough? This isn't like, what if it's not even real? Like all of these questions that I would never, in my true essence and standing in my truth, I would never ask these questions. I would never doubt, what if energy is not real? What if I'm just making this up, et cetera, et cetera. But in those moments, in that week, I was having these really intense experiences. And about 3 weeks before, I had started having these really peculiar headaches at the base of the back of my head. And I didn't know why they were there. It was just really weird. And I also started seeing 1010. Now, I'm an angel numbers person, so I was thinking, this is great. I'm seeing 1010. It's like the meaning is clicking. That makes total sense. So come back to when my computer died, I was sick, I was having all these doubts. I called Christina and I was like, something's wrong. Something's not right. I'm doing everything I usually do, and I just feel so weird. I do not feel like myself anymore. And so she went in and did a session for me of scanning for entities, looking for intrusive objects, all these things. And this is where I do want to emphasize something Christine said about the importance of, in these deeper moments, having someone else there to support you and your energy, because those intrusive entities, those negative energies, are feeding on your energy, but you are only aware of your own energy. And so if you try to remove it with your energy, instead of removing it, you're just feeding it. You're giving it more power, more energy. And so when you have someone else come in with their unique energy, their unique perspective, it creates an additional way of actually removing them without feeding whatever's happening there. So she's scanning and she says, there's something at the back of your head. And I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah, there is something at the back of my head. I've been having these really intense headaches there, which interestingly enough is where that area is where your visual cortex is, which is also the area that lights up in meditation. It's considered the spiritual center of the brain. And so she's feeling into it, and we got to a place where we could tell that it was an intrusive entity, and it was like a cord plugged in, and it had gone so far that it was like following the strands of my nervous system with its energy and starting to take over my thoughts and all of these things. So it was a very, very deeply progressed intrusive entity. And so it took a couple sessions to fully get it out, but it was so interesting because when we pulled it out, it looked like a wire, and suddenly everything makes sense of why my computer was breaking and why I was seeing 1010, because it's like the coding that you see on a computer and all of these things that were causing all of those limiting beliefs, all of that detachment that I felt, all of that darkness that I was dealing with. And even I obviously am very deeply entrenched in spiritual practices and techniques. And even in that moment, I couldn't see that I had an intrusive entity or that I had an attachment. And so I think it's important to understand that even if you have that awareness, even if you're trained in these things, it can still happen. And so that's why it's important to build as much as you can that awareness and the tools that you have, so that when something starts to go wrong and you can tell something's off, but you don't know what, you have not only the confidence in your own energy, but also the power and the ability to ask someone else, I need help. Something's not going right. And this is going to be a 2-person job. So I think it's just really interesting to explore that and to understand that it can take on so many different forms and look like so many different things. So it's not just cut and dry. This is an entity. This is a cord. This is a portal. It can be so unique case by case.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely, you have the negative entities in this earthly world that they're not very smart. Like, I don't know, there's not a lot of like, they're more like the mosquito kind, where they're annoying. It's really easy to clear them. And then you have more of the intrusive entity that has intelligence, and they may not be from this world. And so there's a range there's a range of how easy it is to clear and how difficult it is to clear, depending on what kind of intrusive entity is. But that's a little bit more of a story for another time. Portals are kind of the same, where you can have an energetic portal. We hear about light portals all the time, but no one ever talks about dark portals. When I moved into this house, we had a dark portal in the house, and you could feel it. And it was just like coming up from the crawl space of our house through the kitchen and into my son's bedroom. And we had to rip out the carpet in his room when we moved in. We had to repaint the walls. Like, we had to do all of this stuff while I closed this portal and send it back to its original like home, because it was just like opening a latch and letting all this negative energy come out. And then we had a light portal on the other end of the house. It was very bizarre. We had a light portal on the other end of the house, and we had all of these ghosts. Like, I had a highway in my house where all these ghosts would come in and use the light portal to cross over. And it was just like consistent traffic. And it took me a long time to go, you know what? It's worthy for me to, I'm worth it. It's okay to say, no, I don't want a negative energy portal. That's an easy one. But I don't want a light portal, because I don't want highway traffic in and out of my house all of the time. And it took me a long time to be comfortable with closing that light portal, because, I'm an energy worker. Of course I want the light portal here, but it was exhausting, right? It was exhausting to have that much activity always going on in the household. So, okay. Now we're getting to the juicy bits. Like, how do we defend ourselves to doing this type of works? And so this is let's not poke around in things we don't know. Okay. So this one might feel obvious, but we have to say it. Like, if you aren't ready to do mirror work or soul retrieval work or past life work, if you're inexperienced or don't have a really experienced guide, or has been trained in these things, perhaps this is not the time to do it, right? And so in our energy clearing workshop, we did talk about opening portals, but that was with angels. We're not just setting, because energy follows intention. We all, I'll say this again and again and again. So if our energy follows intention and we don't have really clear intentions for what we're doing, that's where there can be a little dark energy play going on. So same thing, think about back when we were in middle school playing with Ouija boards. My best friend in middle school got out her Ouija board on Halloween and cracked a mirror and all these things. And I was a good little Catholic girl and be like, no, I cannot be here right now. And I left. And I asked her how it went the next day, and it sounds horrific. And I'm like, yeah, this is why we don't play with this kind of stuff. So pay attention to the intention. So you can be doing all kinds of things with intention. Intention. I cannot drill that in enough. When we work with intention, when we talk with intention, when we live a life of intention. This is why I love having goals. When I have that future and vision where of this is where I'm going in my life, this is what I want to create in my life, that pulls me forward on the energetic timeline that I want to be in. But if we're not paying attention and we're just floating through life without a lot of intention, things can kind of like push us down a path or a road that we didn't really want to go down.
Absolutely. And I think it really does come down to, I love this line on here, calling on entities you don't have autonomy over. I'm a big believer in respecting the autonomy, both of yourself and of the energetic beings and spirits that you may or may not encounter. And I think it is both one of those things that falls into not playing in the dark spaces. So don't call on those entities that you don't have autonomy over. If a ghost doesn't want to come to you, don't call on them. If a spirit is not like present for you, don't ask them to come into your reality. They will come if you need them, and you don't need to pull them in just because you have the ability and the consciousness to do so. So respecting the autonomy there is one of the most powerful ways that you can defend yourself, because then you're not sending out an open invitation for whatever energies to come into your reality. Because when you open that door, when you start to call on things, you're not just calling on one thing. It really is like an open door, and anybody, anything can come through. So respecting that and keeping that door closed until you know, like with soul retrieval or past life work, that you have the experience, the guidance, and the confidence to do so in a safe way. But it's also about respecting your own autonomy. And this is something that kind of falls into protection rituals, but it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier about healing those limiting beliefs. Understanding that you are, at the end of the day, a healed, whole, beautiful, spiritual being. And every choice you make is either honoring that nature or not. And so when you honor that, when you honor your autonomy, when you honor your sovereignty, when you honor your true nature as a spiritual being, you will only naturally be doing the things that are for your greatest and highest good, because you are that love, you are that light, you are that good nature of the universe itself. And so when you honor that, when you honor yourself, you will make the choices that will innately keep you safe and protected. And you won't have to go through extra lengths to barricade yourself into a bubble of safety, because you are naturally safe when you honor who you truly are at the core.
I just want to clap for Izzy, because that's it. That is it right there. Like when we honor who we are, nothing can touch us, because we're declaring our sovereignty. We're declaring our empowered, soulful selves. And so when we honor all the bits of who we are, then nothing can touch us, because we're claiming our free will. Okay. So someone has asked, how do I know if I have a portal? It's a great question. And I'm not exactly how to explain this, because it takes a bit of energetic awareness. So oftentimes as clairsentience, as clairvoyance, we can feel, see, hear, sense what's going on. And so if your clairs haven't fully awakened, or we haven't been practicing with them, it can be a little bit difficult to know if there's an open portal somewhere. And so this is why, all of our programs are very much intuition development, psychic development, clair development, so that we can get to a point where we can see, feel, hear, smell, sense, whatever it may be for you, what's going on around you. And, one of the other things is that if you have a lot of darkness in a room consistently, like I cleared the room, I gave it Reiki, I painted the Reiki symbols on the walls, and it still feels like crap in here. Right? If you're having that sense, perhaps it's a portal, and it's time to ask for further support from a more experienced shamanic Reiki practitioner who can help you close it.
And I think also noting too that there's also those like multidimensional portals, which I've actually had one in my home. I have Reiki symbols everywhere, and I clear it every week. And around the same time that I had that negative entity, I became aware that there was a multidimensional portal. And so what that looked like for me when I tuned into the energy was, it was like I could see multiple variations of my home and of me. And it was just all those different dimensions, all those different timelines. And it was fascinating because Christina and I worked together to kind of seal it. And I actually had a seam running in my apartment that I lined with crystals for a while just to keep it all together. But the day after we did it, I actually ended up with 2 parallel scars on my arms that I've never cut myself there or anything like that. And they were just there because it really was sealing in those parallel timelines. And so knowing too that it's not always just the light portals or the negative portals. Sometimes it's those fuzzier boundaries that make them harder to see because it's just multiple timelines or multiple dimensions as well.
And I mean, I love working in that space. I'm like, yeah, there are multiple dimensions and there are parallel universes. And how can we utilize that to benefit us? And how can we close things up that we don't want to open doors to? You know, so it can be a really interesting place to work if you have the proper tools and education to do so. Okay, so now we're going to move on to protection rituals, which we covered some of these in last week's workshop, but we want to go over them again and give you some more ideas of how can you protect yourself, because I feel like you can use all of these tools, but it comes back to that number one, like healing yourself, doing yourself Reiki, healing those limiting beliefs. That is the number one tool by far. Then we can start, while we're doing that personal healing work, we can smudge. We can use our crystals. We can use song bowls. We can use a drum. We can use a rattle. We can call in our spirit team. We can call in the 4 directions like we did at the beginning of this workshop. We can call upon the archangels. We can call on Jesus. We can call on Mother Mary. Like you can do a lot of things because energy follows intention. So this is what protection rituals are. You are putting your energy in intention in action.
Absolutely. And when you're in that space, you're intending it for good. You're intending it for the highest good of all. And this is where a lot of people will ask, well, which one should I do? Which tool should I use? What should my ritual look like? And it really just comes down to what makes you feel the most protected. Because when you feel protected, you are protected. When you feel confident, you are confident. When you feel whole, you are whole. And so it really is about, do crystals resonate? Great, use those. Does sage resonate? Great, use those. Do you have a particular archangel or a guide or a religious figure who really feels connected to you? Call on them. Use the Reiki symbol that you feel drawn to and draw it in your room or on your aura. Envision the violet flame. That's my personal favorite, is envisioning myself encapsulated in violet light for protection. But it's not because one of them is better than the other. It's because we find the things that work for us, that make us feel the most confident, the most protected, and the most ready for whatever it is that's going to come our way. So always, again, it goes back to honoring yourself, honoring your autonomy, and finding what resonates most for you that will help you for the greatest and highest good.
Right? It totally comes back to energy follows intention. What you give power gets power. And so and I love that part because it all comes from within. We have free will. What are we doing to reclaim our sovereignty? Right? So yes, anything else that we want to add?
I don't think so. I think we have gone into a really beautiful kind of wholesome picture of the dark arts and how to defend yourself. But for now, Christine and I have some things to share.
Yeah, so we're just going to go straight to like a little bit of a recap. So now that you know how to identify your energetic cords and intrusive entities, and you've discovered that energy follows intention, even if you are new to Reiki, even if you are new to asking for help from your spirit guides, with all of that said, I want you to know how you're feeling about claiming your energy as your own now. Give me a rating. 0, I have no confidence in doing this and owning my own energy. I'm feeling energetically weak. To 10, I am empowered. I can stand against any entity or any darkness. Let me know where you're at after receiving this information. And, tonight you learned about how to feel into those energies and trust your intuition and claim your power, and what to do if you run into these negative entities, and really amazing and effective tools that you can do along your way, all about, claiming that inner power, your inner truth, your sovereignty, all of the things. And so I'm curious, who is ready to take some action? Now, I love to invite you to go with us deeper in the Shamanic Reiki Practitioner Training, designed for Reiki practitioners who are looking to create deep relationships with their spirit team. Learn how to shamanic journey for yourself and your clients, as well as offer chakra analysis, cord cutting, and soul retrieval ceremonies, all the while getting the business development support so that you can make the impact on your community that you desire. The Shamanic Reiki Practitioner Training will help you go from that doubting empath to an empowered practitioner. This 6-month training is a step-by-step, easy-to-follow method to awaken those clair gifts, trust your intuition, create your offers, and then sell them out with confidence. We cover things like how to shamanic journey to the different realms, how to offer hands-on and distant shamanic Reiki sessions that include chakra spinning, intrusive object removal, and cord cutting, how to use shamanic tools and manifesting altars, and how to sell your new set of skills with business development support. So now I'm not going to pretend that we're the only experts on shamanic training. There are shamanic training programs out there that will help you develop clairvoyance and connect with your guides. What makes our program different is that we specifically support Reiki practitioners and teach you how to blend Reiki and shamanic tools and techniques. We recognize Reiki practitioners' stumbling blocks in both confidence and business skills. We figured out how to teach the skills, instill the confidence, and the business know-how. We break it down with a clear methodology to support you to go from the energetic absorbing empath to clear boundary setting and confident, masterful practitioner that you desire to be. In the Shamanic Reiki Practitioner Training, you'll get pre-recorded videos organized by the 7 chakras. We start at the root and work our way up to crown, and you'll receive the training videos, activating actions, guided meditations, and workbooks. And then you'll also be available to come to 2 live calls per week, the shamanic calls, the coaching calls, the practicum calls, and the business support calls. But there's more. We also have a Facebook group and a chat for accountability. Now, of course, we're speaking about how great our program is. I'd love for you to hear about what other people have said about our program and experience. You can see numerous testimonials on our website and our podcast that came out this last week with Misty, as well as Sherry from Monday of this week. These are students who are sharing their stories on our podcast, Reiki Cafe Radio. So if you haven't checked out that, it's a fantastic resource with lots of student testimonials there as well. So what we've seen is that our students thrive in this course, and we really meet you where you're at. So what do those results look like? Misty shared how her business blossomed from taking this course, how she could trust the healing process for herself and her clients more fully. Sherry shared about her personal healing journey and how she finally has the confidence to share her gifts with the world. Kim is now available to offer amazingly accurate and supportive chakra analysis. Helly lost all fear and anxiety around her practice and fully accepts her gifts as her own. Chantel confidently quit her job and pivoted to offering shamanic Reiki and continues to find success. Other students have been able to meet their business guide and then go on to develop everything from logos to program offerings. And then I've also seen students release tens of thousands of dollars of debt as they change their money mindset completely. So if you're looking for these types of results, then this program is for you. So click the button below to find all of the details. We have numerous payment plans available and unique payment options for those who qualify, but you have to take the first step and click over to the website, fill out the application, and book a call with me. So keep in mind that this is by application only. There is an application for you to fill out, and then you'll be able to book a private call with me where we can chat and really make sure that this is the right program for you. It's all linked on the website below. So let me break it down just a little bit more. The personal development through this the personal development moves through the chakras, because we believe if we can heal ourselves first, we can then fully recognize our energy versus the energy of our clients or those intrusive entities. We need to start there. That's why we're going to bust through those limiting beliefs, embrace your inner child, and hone in on your purpose and passions. The first half of the program, you develop the skills to do shamanic journey work for yourself. And that takes time because we're really connecting in those, the neurological synapses and really rewiring the brain. And so we need to take time to do that. But once you do, then you can learn how to do it for others as well. So the second half of the program shifts its focus to learning shamanic techniques for our clients, practicing on each other, skills like muscle testing, chakra spinning, finding those cords and intrusive objects. And all the while, you're learning the business development and growing your clientele along the way. Our values are to learn, embody, facilitate, and prosper. Just to be clear, in the Shamanic Reiki Practitioner Training, you'll get pre-recorded videos, 2 live calls per week, and a group support so that you can release what no longer serves you, embody your higher self, and share with the world all of your gifts.
Yes, I think this is obviously one of my favorite programs that we have, just because of the really unique way that we go about looking at shamanic techniques and the chakras and incorporating that personal development, all while supporting all of our students on a business level as well, if that's what they're looking for. And also knowing that if you're not looking to start a full-time business, but you're interested in learning these techniques and you're interested in learning about what is shamanic Reiki, how can I journey, how do I connect with my spirit team, this program can also be for you. It's not just if you want to start a full-time job. It really is about, like Christine said, meeting you where you're at. And so if you're curious, if you want to learn more, knowing that what we've touched on tonight is really just the tip of the iceberg, and we go into so much more detail. We give you so many more tools, so much more time to integrate and explore and really learn and embody all of the things that we have talked about tonight and so much more. So if you're curious, use the link below, fill out your application. Know that it really is that first step. And sometimes that first step can feel like the hardest. Taking that leap, filling out the application, putting yourself out there, sometimes it's the hardest thing to do. But we promise you, you will not regret it. We're here to talk with you, to work with you, and to get you to where you need to be. And if you're meant to be in this course, you'll be in this course. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Click the button, fill out your application, and we will meet you where you're at and get you where you need to be in your journey. And if that's joining us for this course, we are so, so, so excited to be working with you.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think if there's anything that you take away from tonight, the biggest takeaway is don't be afraid and honor yourself. Honor your truth. Honor your sovereignty. Honor your power. Know that you have everything you need just in the ability to say, this is my energy. I will not share it. I will not allow things to come in. You have that power. You have that control. And everything else really is just extra. They're tools to help you know that you have that power. It's not the tools in of themselves that are inherently powerful. It's the intention and the energy that you give them. And so by honoring yourself and honoring your sovereignty, you have all the protection you will ever need. And you don't have to be afraid because you are already there. You're already safe. You're already sovereign. And you're already powerful.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So if I totally invite you to check out our full training program. If you liked what you got tonight, this this is like 2 to 4 hours of us each week, and we'd love to have you. We deep dive it on it. You know, like this isn't the thing that, oh, I purchased the course and I can just flow through it. No, this is a deep dive. This is work. We're doing the inner transformation. We're learning the tools, techniques. We're learning how to journey. We're building our spirit team. We're talking power animals. We're talking our spirit guides, our business guides. We get into all of it so that you feel amazing. You're like, yeah, I got a pack of wolves behind me. Like no one can touch me, like whatever your power animals are. And we just really invite you to consider taking the next step for your education. So we do offer payment plans. We get really creative if we need to. So if you are feeling called, check out the link below. Go fill out an application. If you have filled out an application and I have sent everyone on our application a message, like if you have not seen it and I have not jumped on a call with you and I can't get a hold of you, please like hit reply or jump on Facebook. And, you know, I've been getting on calls, and I even had someone the other day who were like, I looked at her application and she's like, I'm not really sure if this is the right program. I looked at her application. I'm like, you know what? You're right. This isn't the right program. So I'm not going to sell it to you if it's not the right program for you. I really honor where you're at with your practice. And so if you are more advanced, I'm not going to sell you something that you don't need. So that is part of me going, I live the precepts. I do my work honestly. And just like I honor you of doing your work honestly. And so when you show up, you're going to show up fully. You're going to show up in your weakness and your vulnerability and in your power. So with that, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was an honor to be with you and share this material with you. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you so much, everyone.